Whether you know it or not, it's a war going on right now. And if you don't know it or you don't realize it, I'll prove it to you. So there are these different times in society where you see where there's an issue and then there's a reality that doesn't reflect, the desired result. And you'll see the behavior of what successful people do to achieve those results. So for example, you could look at levels of government. Back in the 80s when there was a huge drug epidemic, the government didn't say like, hey, we're going to launch this campaign on drugs, or we're going to, deal with this issue of drugs. They said, this is the war on drugs. We're going to launch the war on drugs. That's the approach that they took. Because anytime that you have a goal in mind, or you have sort of an ideal situation in mind, then you have a reality at the same time. And if that reality doesn't say that this is where we're at with it, or if it doesn't reflect that goal, then automatically the people that are successful at achieving that goal, they take a battleground stance. They take a stance of war with it immediately because the reality doesn't reflect that. So let's move on. Let's look at the medical field. When a doctor comes in and somebody's been diagnosed, he doesn't say, how far along are we? He doesn't say, how are we coming along with this disease? He says, how aggressive is it? Because that disease has a desired goal in mind. It wants to kill the host that it's in. But the reality doesn't reflect its goal. The reality is that the host is still living. So it's aggressive with it. People don't kick cancer, they battle cancer. They use that term more often, battling cancer. You got to look at those words, battling, aggressive, war, like war on drugs. Even in religion, there's a verse that says, for we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against, powers in high places, spiritual powers and principalities in high places. Look at that word wrestle, fight the good fight. In the early centuries, when countries went to war, they were always headed by their band. There was a band usually leading the pack. It was drums and trumpets and horns. And now in sports, you'll see bands that'll be right there, especially in college sports, because they're fashioning themselves after war. They have a desired result as well. They want to win a game, but the reality is it is not won yet, so they declare war. See what that looks like? When you have a problem, you have to approach it correctly. And how you know that you need to declare war on something is that when you have a goal in mind, you immediately look at the reality and say, you know what, this reality doesn't reflect what I want. I must now declare war on the situation. And that's it. So, how do you win a war? What's the first thing that you do when you need to win a war? Well, the first thing you got to know is that, a war is broken down into battles. So if you look at the Civil War, you got Gettysburg or Fort Sumter. When you look at World War II, you've got different battles there. You had the attack on Pearl Harbor. So it's whoever wins the most battles wins the war. That's how a war is won. So that way you don't look at the whole scope of everything that you've got to do. You just look at what's right there in front of you, the battle that's there in front of you. Right? He who wins the most battles wins the war. So say, for example, if you want to, get chiseled, get that body in shape, then right now your battle is in the morning times. Are you going to have a sausage, egg, and cheese biscuit? Or are you going to have oatmeal, orange juice, and a banana? That's your battle right then. You can't think about the other battles because if you don't you can't think about it. You can't think about those other things right then. If you feel like you're not productive enough and you procrastinate a lot, then that battle right in front of you, the immediate battle, is to find a few things that you can do every single day. And every day that you get up, that's your battle for that day. And some days you're going to fall. Some days you're not going to get it right. Some days you're going to, lose. But as long as you win more battles than you lose, you look up, you're going to be winning that war. And that's how wars are won. You're not going to win each battle. Failure is inevitable. Nobody can get around failure. Absolutely nobody can get around failure. So you're going to fail. You're going to have those days where you're weak. You're going to have those days where you're not going to just, be your tightest or be on your best. why approach problems and why approach a goal with so much aggression or with aggression? Why not approach it with aggression? You know, everything in this universe is based on resistance. You see, you don't realize that you're being qualified to go to the next level. And the resistance is just a medium that qualifies you to say, okay, you know what, he or she is ready to go to the next level, or they deserve this. Right? So you can't even walk without friction trying to slow you down. You can't jump without something pulling you back down to the surface. And you see this in all walks of life. You know, even as you're breathing, it's working on your heart. It's causing wear and tear on your heart. So you have to exercise, you know, to have a counter effect on that. There's resistance everywhere. Why not use aggression? Everything else is using aggression but you. That's just the way the world works. I wonder if you haven't achieved some of the things that you might have wanted to achieve just because you chose to take a more of a soft approach versus an aggressive approach, right? And aggressive just means consistency. It means action now versus later. You see, you're gonna have your naysayers and people that look at this video and say, you know what, that's just a little bit too serious. That's just a little bit too radical, right? And the reality is that they just can't see. You can't help people like that, you know. But people that are successful, they get it. You know, and it's not to say, like, you know, don't entertain yourself, but you got to take a portion of your life to be serious about something, you know, and go to work on yourself and the things that you want. Your work is going to fill a big part of your life, a huge part of your life. It might as well be beneficial to you. Be aggressive, be consistent, declare war on anything that doesn't line up with your goals. If your reality doesn't line up with something that you want, that's an immediate declaration of war. You have to then go and win the battles each and every day, and you have to be consistent, and it'll all work out. All right, it's CJ Lee, man.